We have been examining what the relationship is between politics, society, and science, where changes in politics and society shape the development of science, whether in the development of metrology to Einstein's theory of relativity. So we've been asking, how do social forces change science? But we also might ask, how does science change society? This is the focus for the discussion here, specifically corporations. Your reading describes the significant role of patents in the development of the telegraph system, for Westinghouse, and to the telephone system as well. It discusses the importance of monopoly control to the oil system in addition. Ultimately, what made these patents profitable was a matter of political power. The patents didn't make themselves valuable on their own. They weren't self-enforcing. Instead, the patents were valuable because of the extension of federal power to police and to specifically prevent other individuals and businesses from developing, inventing, or selling technologies that had been judged similar by patent clerks, lawyers, and judges. The way that railroad transformed society depended not simply on the invention of the steam engine, or even the consolidation of different rail companies into larger companies so that they might share a single track gauge. It also depended on the support of the federal government and ultimately the taxpayers of America. Long-distance rail was first financed by government-guaranteed loans. At the beginning, before the existence of transcontinental rail, the government promised companies, which had not yet been formed, the ability to borrow money from investors. These investors were willing to loan money to companies with no track record because of the full value of the loan, both principal and interest, was backed by the government and by the U.S. taxpayers. Ultimately, the government paid even the interest on the bonds. But where would the actual railroad go? Turned out it would be built on land either owned by the U.S. and its citizens, or it was private land that had been expropriated from the Indians, even lands that had previously been formally agreed to in treaties. So the railroads received not only the space to build their tracks, but also the land on either side of the tracks as well. Sales of this land would finance construction of the railroads. Indeed, the Railway Act of 1864 gave 12,800 acres for every mile of railroad. The amount of land received was ultimately enormous, the size of small countries, or the size of a state. The Union Pacific Railroad got the amount of land of New Hampshire and New Jersey combined. The Central Pacific Railroad got about the land the size of Maryland. The Kansas Pacific Railroad got Vermont and Rhode Island. The Northern Pacific Railroad got the equivalent of New England, a strip 20 miles wide in the states and 40 miles wide in the territories, all the way from Lake Superior to Puget Sound. Together, all of these grants add up to a state that is smaller only than Texas and Alaska. Let's look at corporate history. Early on, as a general rule, a corporation could be created only by a special act of a state legislature. Incorporation was deemed a privilege and was usually granted only for the construction of facilities that would clearly benefit the general public, such as bridges, harbor facilities, roads, and canals. By 1800, there were 295 business corporations, many of them chartered by state legislatures. Corporations created by state legislatures enjoyed advantages over ordinary businesses. Often a corporation conferred a unique right, for example, to collect tolls on a bridge or a road. Yet to some citizens, corporations appeared undemocratic. As early as 1785, a group of mechanics in New York complained, quote, "All incorporations imply a privilege given to one order of citizens which others do not enjoy." They also said that corporations therefore were destructive of the principle of equal liberty which should subsist in every community, and therefore should be justified only by the most evident public utility. Consider coal mining as an example. Owners of coal mining companies that were not incorporated complained that they did not have the same ease in raising money as corporations. Others objected that an incorporated coal company drained the local community of the mine's wealth, putting it into the pockets of distant investors. There were other objections as well. The owner of a family firm was personally responsible for its financial obligations, so if the coal mine went bankrupt, so too did the owner. In contrast, stockholders' liability in a corporation was limited to their direct investment in that corporation. So it seemed immoral to many people that men whose companies had gone bankrupt and had paid little or nothing to their creditors could retain their personal wealth. The corporation had the clear advantage then that it facilitated the raising of capital in amounts far larger than individuals would or could invest while it also limited their liabilities. But the corporation seemed to be an instrument of artificial inequality, creating wealth that was not always merited by hard work. As the scale of corporations increased, numbers became the language of business. New systems of accounting were invented. Where once it had seemed sufficient to know one's profits at the end of the year, corporations began to develop a new system of accounting known as replacement accounting to keep track of depreciation. They began to ask not only what their profit was, but also what percentage it yielded in relationship to a fixed capital investment and in relationship to monthly turnover. They sought to reduce their inventories and to minimize cash on hand and to speed goods to the customer, for through these stratagems they could raise their turnover rate. So then we have a new system and two new social technologies. We have accounting, management, and the corporation itself.